John Harper stood in front of his apartment mirror, straightening the collar of his shirt for the third time. The lights in his small living room flickered softly, reflecting the quiet hum of the colony's power grid. He ran a hand through his hair and sighed. It had been years since he'd done something like this, years since he had allowed himself to think about romance. Between work, raising his young son Leo, and managing the little robot assistant that helped with chores, dating had always seemed impossible. Tonight, however, was different. Tonight, he had a date. He glanced at the small clock above the kitchen counter. 7:55 p.m. It blinked in green digits. Maya would arrive any moment now. He'd met her 2 weeks ago at the colony's annual tech expo. She had an easy smile and a way of explaining complex robotics problems that made them sound almost magical. She was smart, kind, and most importantly, she had made John laugh, a rare thing these days. Leo, his 8-year-old son, sat at the small kitchen table, building a model spaceship from a kit. His fingers moved quickly, assembling tiny parts with precision. "Dad, are you nervous?" he asked without looking up. John crouched beside him, forcing a confident smile. "A little. But that's normal, right?" Leo shrugged, focused on connecting the last pieces of the ship. "Mom said people get nervous before important things. This is important, isn't it?" "Yes, Leo." "Very important," John said, ruffling his son's hair. The door chime rang suddenly, cutting through the quiet apartment. John's heart jumped. That must be her. He took a deep breath, wiped his sweaty palms on his pants, and walked to the door. When he opened it, Maya was standing there, holding a small bag with what looked like dinner inside. She smiled warmly, and for a moment, John forgot to speak. She was wearing a simple blue dress, and her hair was pulled back into a neat ponytail. Her eyes held a spark of curiosity, as if she was already noticing everything about him. "Hi, John," she said softly. Then, with a small tilt of her head, she added, "My children are waiting outside." John blinked. He had expected to meet her alone. He had expected a quiet dinner, maybe a walk on the observation deck, and plenty of nervous conversation. But children? Waiting outside? "Oh, okay," John said cautiously, stepping back to let her in. "Come in. I'll get Leo." Maya stepped inside gracefully, setting her bag on the counter. "They're very polite," she said, almost as if anticipating his reaction. "And they're excited to meet you." John felt a mix of curiosity and anxiety swirl in his stomach. He had raised Leo alone for years. He was good at it, or at least he liked to think he was, but dating someone who already had children, that was a whole new level of responsibility. Could he handle that? Would the children like him? Would he be able to keep up? He found Leo at the kitchen table, still absorbed in his spaceship. "Leo," John said gently, "we have visitors." Leo looked up, eyes wide. "Visitors?" "Yes. Maya and her children are here," John explained. At the sound of this, Leo's eyes lit up. "Cool. Kids? Are they like me?" "Something like that," John said, still feeling unsure. He led Leo to the front door and opened it to reveal 3 children standing in the hallway outside. They looked ordinary at first glance, but John noticed the subtle signs of the colony's genetic enhancements. Slightly brighter eyes, sharper reflexes, and a natural grace in the way they moved. "Hi," said the eldest, a girl with golden brown hair, braided neatly down her back. "I'm Zara. That's my brother, Kale, and our little sister Lyra." Leo stepped forward, a little shy but curious. "I'm Leo," he said. "Are you from around here?" "Yes," Zara said, smiling. "We've explored most of the colony's sectors. Our mom told us about you." John raised his eyebrows in surprise. "She's already talked to them about me?" He felt a strange warmth in his chest. It was comforting to see the children so polite and prepared. Maya knelt slightly, putting herself at eye level with her kids. "Be kind, and listen," she said softly. "But don't be afraid to ask questions. Be kind." Sihar. People of Lidi X. Sixhar. The children nodded in unison. Then, with a bright smile, Zara stepped forward and extended her hand. "Nice to meet you, John," she said. John shook her hand, impressed by her confidence. "Nice to meet you too," he said. He noticed Kale hovering behind her, curious but cautious, and little Lyra clinging slightly to her sister's side, peeking up at him with wide, innocent eyes. "Do you want to come in?" John asked, gesturing toward the apartment. "Yes, please," Zara said, and the other two followed. As the children stepped inside, John noticed how naturally they moved around his apartment. Kale immediately started examining the robot assistant in the corner, asking questions about its programming. Lyra wandered toward the bookshelves, picking up a storybook and flipping through it with fascination. Leo watched them carefully, then smiled. "They're kind of cool," he said softly. John nodded. "Yes, they are." Maya set the bag of food on the counter and began unpacking it. "I thought it would be nice to share a meal," she said. "Nothing too fancy, just something everyone will enjoy." The children's eyes lit up at the sight of the food. Zara immediately offered to help set the table. Kael helped Leo arrange plates and cutlery, and Lyra carefully placed napkins beside everyone's plate. John watched in awe. "This is a family in action," he thought. "And somehow, I'm already part of it tonight." As they all sat down to eat, conversation began to flow naturally. Leo asked the children about their favorite parts of the colony. Zara explained her love for interstellar navigation simulations. Kale described his experiments with zero-gravity robotics. And Lyra giggled at stories about Leo's mischievous adventures at school. John listened, occasionally adding his own stories, feeling a strange mix of nervousness and joy. He realized that this dinner was not just a date, it was an introduction to a world he hadn't imagined for himself, a glimpse of the life Maya and her children had built together. Maya watched him with a gentle smile. "I hope this isn't too overwhelming," she said quietly. John shook his head. "Not at all," he said. "It's nice, really nice." As the meal continued, John noticed something remarkable. The children, despite their advanced abilities and knowledge, were not arrogant or distant. They were curious, kind, and genuinely interested in connecting with him and Leo. It was a reminder, he realized, of the best qualities of humanity: adaptability, empathy, and the desire to connect. By the time dessert arrived, a simple fruit tart from the colony's market, John felt a warm sense of belonging. He had opened the door expecting a quiet evening, a small chance to explore romance after years of focusing solely on work and parenting. Instead, he had found something more. A glimpse into a family, a network of humans who were smart, caring, and capable of extraordinary things. And for the first time in a long time, John felt a flutter of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he could be part of this world, not just as a visitor, but as someone who could contribute to the joy, laughter, and adventures that awaited. When the children finally excused themselves to play with some colony educational holograms, John turned to Maya. She was smiling, calm, and somehow completely at ease. "You were right," he said softly. "Your children are amazing." "They are," she agreed, "and they will be curious about you, just like you are curious about them." John nodded, realizing that tonight was only the beginning, the first step into something extraordinary. And as he glanced at Leo, who was already laughing with Zara over a zero-gravity puzzle, John felt a surge of gratitude. Humanity was capable of incredible connections, of forming bonds that could transcend loneliness, isolation, and even the cold expanse of space. And maybe, just maybe, he was ready to embrace it all. The soft hum of the colony's power grid filled John's apartment as the children continued exploring. Leo and his new friends, Zara, Kale, and Lyra, were laughing and talking as if they had known each other for years. The warmth in the apartment contrasted sharply with the metallic corridors outside. But inside, it felt alive, almost magical. Zara, the eldest, had already climbed onto the small sofa and was examining the holographic tablet that controlled the apartment's lighting. "Wow," she whispered. "This is amazing. Your apartment is so cozy." Leo grinned. "Thanks. My dad built some of the furniture himself, and the robot over there helps clean everything." He pointed toward John's small assistant robot, which beeped softly as it polished the floor. Kale, the middle child, immediately crouched to inspect the robot's wheels. "It looks fast. Can it lift heavy objects?" he asked, eyes bright with curiosity. John laughed. "It's good, but not for heavy lifting. Mostly it helps with cleaning and small chores." Lyra, the youngest, wandered over to the kitchen counter, her small fingers touching the fruit tart that had been set aside. "Is this for later?" she asked. "Yes," John said kindly. "After everyone washes their hands, we'll eat." The children nodded and ran to the small bathroom to wash up, Leo following behind them. John watched, feeling a mixture of amusement and awe. They were polite, confident, and curious in a way that made him smile. It reminded him of how children were the heart of humanity, the future. Their enthusiasm, their questions, their laughter, it all made the universe feel less vast, less lonely. Once everyone was ready, they sat around the table, picking up small plates and starting to nibble on the fruit tart. Conversation flowed naturally, like water over smooth stones. "So," Zara began, "Leo, what do you like to do for fun?" Leo grinned. "I like building things. Spaceships mostly. And I like reading about planets. Do you know about the vortex system?" Zara's eyes lit up. "Yes. I've read about it. The floating gas clouds are amazing. Did you know some scientists think the clouds have tiny life forms?" Leo's mouth opened in surprise. "Really? I didn't know that." Kale leaned forward. "I've been experimenting with micro-robots that could study those clouds. Mom says they might be useful someday for exploration." John watched, impressed by their knowledge and interest. "You three are very smart," he said. "How do you learn so much?" Zara smiled. "We read, explore, and sometimes we experiment. Our mom teaches us, but we also learn from each other." Lyra, munching on a small piece of tart, added shyly, "I like drawing planets, and I like helping Kale with his robots." Leo's face brightened. "I like building too. Maybe we can build something together." John felt a warmth spreading in his chest. This wasn't just a simple playdate. It was an introduction to a family that valued curiosity, creativity, and teamwork. And it was happening right in his own apartment. After dessert, Zara suggested an idea. "Hey Leo, do you want to see something cool?" Leo nodded eagerly. "Yes." Zara led them to a small corner of the living room, where a holographic projector was stored. She pressed a few buttons on a device she had brought with her, and suddenly, a three-dimensional map of the colony appeared in mid-air, glowing in soft blues and greens. "This is our favorite project," Zara said. "We've been mapping the colony in real time. It shows all the buildings, the transport tubes, and even where the plants are growing," Kale added. "We also track energy usage. Look, see that little red dot? That means the energy level is low in that sector." John leaned closer, fascinated. "You created this yourselves?" Zara nodded proudly. "Mostly. Mom helps us with the complicated coding. But we do the research and planning." Leo's eyes widened. "Wow, that's amazing. Can we add my spaceship workshop too?" "Of course," Zara said with a grin. "Let's see. Yes. We can mark it right here. Now everyone can see it on the map." John couldn't help but smile. The kids weren't just intelligent. They were inventive, collaborative, and curious. And their enthusiasm was contagious. He realized that these were the traits that defined humanity's strength: the desire to learn, to explore, and to work together. As they continued to explore the holographic map, Maya came over, carrying a small device. "I thought it might be fun to show you something," she said. She tapped a few buttons, and a miniature drone hovered above the table, its lights blinking softly. The children gasped. Lyra clapped her hands. It's like a tiny robot bird. Kale leaned forward, studying it carefully. Can it take pictures? Yes, Maya said. And it can follow you. You can control it with the tablet. Leo's eyes lit up. Can I try? Maya smiled. Of course. She handed him the tablet, and within moments, he was directing the drone around the apartment. It hovered above the holographic map, casting tiny shadows on the walls. The children laughed and cheered as the drone performed little flips in the air. John watched, feeling a sense of pride. Leo had been shy before, cautious around new people, but now, he was laughing freely, collaborating with the other children, and showing confidence he hadn't shown in a long time. After a while, the drone buzzed low and landed gently on the table. The children leaned back, breathless from excitement. That was amazing, Zara said. I can see why Leo likes you, Dad. John looked at Leo in surprise. You like me? He asked softly, unsure if he had heard correctly. Leo nodded, grinning. Of course. You're fun. And you're nice. And you let us try new things. John felt a lump in his throat. He was touched by Leo's words, and by the way Maya's children had accepted him so quickly. In that moment, he realized something important. Connections could form quickly, even in the most unexpected situations. If people approached each other with kindness and curiosity, the evening continued with small games and experiments. Zara suggested a mini engineering challenge, building a bridge using only straws and tape. Kale and Leo immediately joined in, discussing strategies and testing different designs. Lyra contributed with decorations, making the bridge colorful and imaginative. John watched, smiling. He realized that this family valued creativity, teamwork, and learning everything he wanted for Leo. And somehow, despite the initial shock of meeting children he hadn't expected, he felt included. Maya sat nearby, quietly observing the interactions. Every so often, she offered guidance or encouragement, but mostly she let the children explore on their own. John noticed the trust between her and her children, and he admired it. She had raised them to be independent, curious, and confident. As the night drew on, the children grew tired but happy. They gathered around for a final story before heading to the play area near the apartment. Maya pulled out a small device and activated a holographic storybook. The room filled with glowing images of distant planets, strange creatures, and heroic explorers. John leaned back, feeling a sense of contentment. He hadn't expected this night to be so full of energy, creativity, and joy. And yet, here he was, surrounded by children who had welcomed him, a son who was making friends, and a woman who had built a family that was extraordinary in every way. As the children played with the storybook, John turned to Maya. I didn't know what to expect tonight, he said softly. But this has been amazing. Maya smiled, her eyes warm. I'm glad you feel that way. They're curious. Yes. But they're also very protective of each other. I wanted to see how you and Leo would fit into our little world, John nodded. He realized that this was the first night of many. The first step into a new chapter. One filled with laughter, learning, and the kind of family bonds that made life rich and meaningful. And as he watched the children's laughter fill the apartment, he thought to himself, this is what humanity is, at its best, curious, caring, and full of wonder. And maybe, just maybe, I can be part of it too. The evening air hummed softly through the colony's corridors, but inside John's apartment, the atmosphere was lively. After dessert and the holographic story session, Maya suggested something that made everyone's eyes light up. Why don't we have a small adventure, she said with a playful smile. Something simple, fun, and safe right here in the apartment. We can test your teamwork skills. Leo's face brightened immediately. An adventure? Like a mission? Exactly, Maya replied. But instead of exploring space, we'll explore our apartment. I've set up a few puzzles and challenges that will need teamwork and creativity to solve. Zara clapped her hands. I love puzzles. Let's do it. Kale jumped up, eager to start. I want to see who can figure out the first challenge fastest. Lyra looked up at her mother with a small smile. Can we all do it together? Maya nodded. Yes. It's all about working together, not competing. John felt a flutter of excitement. He had spent years solving problems at work, but nothing compared to the fun of working on a game designed for humans, curious, inventive humans together. He felt grateful that Maya had invited him into this world so openly. The first challenge began in the living room. Maya had hidden small blocks throughout the apartment, each engraved with symbols from different planets in the colony. Your task, she said, is to find all the blocks and arrange them to make a pattern I'll show you here. She tapped the tablet, displaying a glowing design of interconnected shapes and colors. The children immediately dispersed, with Leo following Zara as they darted toward the kitchen. Kale took the robot assistant and began scanning the floor, while Lyra examined the bookshelf, carefully picking out any hidden blocks. John walked alongside Leo, pointing out some of the more obvious spots. This is fun, Leo whispered. I like puzzles, John smiled. Me too, buddy. Let's see if we can find them all. It didn't take long for them to gather the first set of blocks. Kale, using the robot assistant, discovered a few hidden behind a small cabinet. Zara carefully lined them up in the pattern Maya had shown. Lyra added the final piece, placing it just so, with a proud grin. Maya clapped her hands. Excellent! You did it faster than I expected. Now, for the next challenge. She guided everyone to the small balcony attached to the apartment. Outside, the colony lights twinkled like distant stars, reflecting the metallic structures and domed habitats that stretched across the sector. Maya had set up a simple mini-drone obstacle course, suspended in midair with small glowing rings for the drones to pass through. This is your next mission, Maya explained. You have to guide the drone through the rings using this tablet. She handed the device to Leo. And you'll need help from your teammates to make it through. 7. That's not 10-10. 7. Leo's eyes widened with excitement. Yes! Let's do this! Zara and Kale quickly took positions beside him, offering suggestions and strategies. Lyra, small and nimble, moved around carefully, keeping an eye on the drone's movements. John stood behind them, quietly observing and occasionally giving a tip. At first, the drone wobbled in the air, narrowly missing the glowing rings. Leo's brow furrowed, and he bit his lip in concentration. We can do this, John encouraged. Try tilting it a little slower. Zara adjusted her hand on the controls. I think if we angle it from the left, we can get through the next ring. Kale nodded. Yes. And I'll use the robot to guide it from below. Lyra cheered quietly. Go, go, go. After a few tense moments, the drone zipped through the first ring, then the second. The children erupted in cheers, jumping and clapping as the drone finally passed through all the rings. That was amazing, Leo shouted. We did it. John smiled proudly. You all worked together perfectly. That's teamwork. Maya leaned against the balcony railing, watching the excitement. I think you're all ready for the final challenge, she said, a twinkle in her eyes. The last task was a bit more creative. Maya had prepared a simple blueprint of a small bridge that needed to be built using only lightweight materials: straws, tape, and string. The goal was to connect 2 points of the balcony railing without letting the bridge touch the floor. Who wants to start? Zara asked, eyes gleaming. I do, Kale exclaimed. I have some ideas. Leo and John joined Kale at the table, while Zara and Lyra began arranging the materials. Together, they experimented with different ways to make the bridge stable. Straws were taped together, string was tied in knots, and everyone contributed ideas. At first, the bridge collapsed under its own weight, sending the straws clattering to the floor. Leo groaned. Oh no, John chuckled. Don't worry, that's part of the fun. Every failure teaches us something new. Zara picked up a straw and examined it. If we make triangles, it will be stronger, she said. Kale nodded, adjusting the structure. Yes, triangles are stable. That's how engineers build bridges. Lyra carefully added a final piece of string to secure the top. Here, that should hold. They tested the bridge slowly, adding a small weight to see if it could hold. It held perfectly. Everyone cheered, hugging each other in celebration. "This is great," Leo said. "We built it together." John felt a surge of admiration for the children. They were smart, inventive, and collaborative, yet humble and encouraging to one another. It reminded him of humanity's greatest strengths: creativity, resilience, and the ability to work together to solve problems. Maya smiled warmly at John. "You handled that very well," she said softly. "You didn't just help Leo, you encouraged all of them." John nodded. "It's easy when everyone is so willing to share their ideas and listen. They're amazing kids." The night continued with laughter and playful challenges. They tested the drone again, made small improvements to their bridge, and even created a mini obstacle course for Leo's spaceship model. Through it all, John observed the children's energy and enthusiasm, amazed at how quickly they adapted, collaborated, and learned. At one point, Lyra ran over to John and tugged on his sleeve. "Dad," she whispered, "this is so much fun. Can we do more adventures tomorrow?" John smiled. "Of course. If you all want to, we can make it a tradition." Leo leaned over, whispering to him. "I think Maya's kids are awesome, Dad. I like them a lot." I. John nodded. "Me too, buddy. Me too." Finally, after an hour of fun and games, Maya suggested they all sit down for a quiet moment. They gathered on the sofa, sipping warm cocoa from small mugs. The children were tired now, their energy winding down, but their eyes still sparkled with excitement. "You all did wonderfully tonight," Maya said, her voice calm and kind. "I'm proud of each of you. You worked together, solved problems, and had fun. That's what matters most." John looked around, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. This was more than just a game, it was a demonstration of the best parts of humanity: curiosity, collaboration, creativity, and kindness. The children had shown him that people could face challenges with joy and intelligence, and he felt inspired by them. As the children began to tidy up, John helped Leo stack the small pieces of the bridge and put the drone back in its case. "You know," he said quietly, "tonight was incredible. I didn't expect it to be so alive." Maya smiled. "That's what family can feel like. Adventure, learning, laughter, all mixed together. And you're welcome here anytime." John felt a warmth in his chest, realizing that he had been part of something extraordinary. For the first time in a long time, he felt like he belonged not just as a visitor, but as someone who could be part of a family that valued curiosity, kindness, and creativity. As the children finally prepared for bed in the small play area near the apartment, John watched them with quiet admiration. Leo was happily chatting with Kale about new spaceship designs. Zara was reading quietly, and little Lyra was doodling planets on a holographic pad. Maya approached John, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You handled everything wonderfully tonight," she said. "It's not easy to meet children and step into a world they've built. But you did it with patience, kindness, and curiosity." John nodded, feeling a mix of pride and gratitude. "I didn't just survive the night," he said softly. "I enjoyed it. More than I thought I could." Maya smiled. "That's the start, John. There's more to come. Adventures, challenges, and learning together. You'll see how rewarding it can be." As John tucked Leo into bed later, he reflected on the night. It had started with uncertainty, a simple dinner with a woman he liked, but it had grown into something far richer. Teamwork, creativity, laughter, and the joy of discovering new friends and family connections. He realized that humanity, with all its curiosity, ingenuity, and kindness, could turn even a small apartment into a universe of adventure. And he knew that tonight was only the beginning. Tomorrow, the adventure would continue. And this time, John, Leo, Maya, and her extraordinary children would face it together. The morning sun filtered softly through the small windows of John's apartment, casting long, golden streaks across the living room. Outside, the colony hummed with activity. Workers moved along the corridors. Cargo drones floated quietly above, and distant gardens glimmered in the early light. Inside, the apartment was alive with the sound of laughter and playful chatter. Leo was already awake, sprawled on the floor with his spaceship model, testing its tiny thrusters. Zara, Kale, and Lyra were equally busy, examining the apartment's holographic maps and miniature drones. John sipped his morning tea, observing them with quiet admiration. He had never imagined that a single evening could lead to such a lively and energetic morning. Maya entered the room carrying a small tablet. "Good morning, everyone," she said warmly. "I hope you slept well." "Morning," the children chorused. Lyra waved at John and Leo. Maya's expression grew slightly serious, though her eyes retained their usual warmth. "There's a small issue in the colony today," she said. "A minor power fluctuation has been reported in one of the energy sectors. It's nothing dangerous, but it needs attention." John raised an eyebrow. "A power fluctuation? What kind of problem is it?" Maya tapped a few buttons on the tablet, bringing up a 3D map of the colony. "One of the grids supplying energy to several sectors is unstable. If we don't stabilize it, the lights, water, and life support systems in that area could temporarily shut down." Leo's eyes widened. "Can we help?" he asked eagerly. Zara grinned. "Yes, that's our kind of adventure," Maya nodded. "It will be a learning experience. You'll see how humans and technology work together to solve real problems." John looked at the children, then at Maya, and finally down at Leo. "All right," he said. "Let's see what we can do." They began by gathering around the holographic map, analyzing the unstable grid. Kale pointed to a section of the colony where the readings fluctuated rapidly. "Here," he said. "The energy patterns are all over the place. Maybe it's a misalignment in the backup system." Zara leaned in, her eyes scanning the map. "If we adjust the energy flow from this node and stabilize it here, we could prevent a shutdown." John was impressed. The children weren't just observing, they were thinking critically, suggesting solutions like trained engineers. Maya handed John a small control tablet. "You and Leo can help monitor the flow while they work on the adjustments," she explained. "The robot assistant can help too." John nodded. "All right, Leo, let's do this together." Leo grinned, his small hands shaking slightly with excitement. "Yes! Let's save the colony." The group moved to the small control area near John's living room, where the robot assistant and a few portable tools were set up. The children worked in pairs, Kale guiding the robot to analyze energy nodes, Zara calculating the adjustments, and Lyra keeping track of readings on the holographic tablet. John and Leo monitored the outputs, making sure the system stayed within safe parameters. At first, the grid was unpredictable. Lights flickered, holographic displays shimmered, and alarms beeped softly. Leo's brow furrowed. "Oh no! It's changing too fast." John placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Don't worry, buddy. We can handle this. Just follow the instructions and stay calm." Zara adjusted a setting on the control tablet. "Try diverting some energy to the secondary node. That should stabilize it temporarily." Kale guided the robot carefully. "I'll redirect power from the auxiliary source. That should help balance it." Maya observed quietly, occasionally offering guidance but mostly letting the group take the lead. John noticed how much trust she had in her children, and in him. It was clear that this family valued independence, teamwork, and confidence. Little by little, the grid began to stabilize. Lights that had flickered steadily glowed with warmth, and the alarms quieted. Leo let out a small cheer. "It's working," John smiled proudly. "You're all doing amazing." Lyra jumped up, clapping her hands. "We did it. We really did it." Zara grinned, adjusting a final control. "Yes. The grid is stable now. No shutdowns." The group cheered together, their laughter filling the apartment. John felt a swell of pride, not just in Leo, but in all of them. These children were capable, intelligent, and creative. They weren't just learning, they were actively making a difference. Maya looked at John, her eyes soft with approval. You see? Humans can solve problems when we work together. Knowledge, creativity, and collaboration are powerful. John nodded. It's incredible. I never imagined that kids could handle something so technical. They're amazing. The children beamed with pride. Zara looked at Leo. You did really well too. You kept the energy readings steady and followed instructions perfectly. Leo grinned shyly. Thanks. I had a great team. John ruffled his hair. You were part of that team too, buddy. And so was I. After the excitement, they gathered around the dining table for a simple breakfast. Toast, fruit, and warm cocoa filled small plates and mugs. The children chatted about the adventure, laughing over small mistakes and clever solutions. Leo described how KL had suggested using the robot assistant to redirect power, and how Lyra had noticed a small error in the readings that saved them time. John listened, feeling inspired. He realized that this adventure was more than just a problem-solving exercise. It was a lesson in humanity's greatest strengths: curiosity, ingenuity, teamwork, and kindness. Each child had contributed in their own way, and each had been valued for their ideas. Maya watched the interactions quietly. I think you all learned something important today, she said softly. Not just about energy grids or technology, but about how humans can work together. That's what makes us strong. John smiled. I see that. And I'm proud to be part of it. Even just a little. Leo nodded enthusiastically. Me too. That was the best adventure ever. As breakfast finished, the children suggested another small activity. Exploring the colony's nearby observation deck to see the solar arrays up close. John hesitated for a moment, but Maya's reassuring smile encouraged him. It's safe, John. They'll love it, and you'll enjoy it too. The group donned lightweight safety harnesses and walked down the corridor to the observation deck. The doors opened to reveal a breathtaking view of the colony's solar panels, stretching across several levels. Light reflected off the panels, creating a dazzling pattern across the metallic surfaces. Zara ran ahead, pointing excitedly. Look! The panels are aligned perfectly to capture the sun's energy. That's why we had the fluctuation yesterday. It was a misalignment in this section. KL moved closer, scanning the panels with a small handheld device. Yes, we corrected it from the control hub. But seeing it in person is amazing. Leo laughed as he ran along the deck, imagining the solar arrays as massive spaceship wings. Lyra skipped beside him, waving at the reflective surfaces. John followed, feeling a sense of wonder he hadn't experienced in years. Maya walked alongside him, her hand brushing lightly against his. Humanity is remarkable, she said quietly. We explore, create, and solve problems. And we do it together. John nodded, taking in the view. He realized she was right. From small children learning about energy grids to engineers managing the colony, humanity thrived when curiosity, collaboration, and care came together. The group spent the next hour exploring the observation deck, learning about solar energy, discussing creative solutions for future projects, and laughing as they imagined adventures in space. Leo and KL even suggested designing their own miniature energy system for the apartment using leftover materials, sparking a new idea for a collaborative project. As they returned to the apartment, tired but happy, John reflected on the day. What had begun as a quiet dinner and a small game had transformed into an adventure of learning, creativity, and teamwork. He felt grateful for the opportunity to be part of Maya's extraordinary family, and for the reminder that humanity's best qualities, curiosity, ingenuity, and collaboration, could shine in even the simplest moments. That night, as the children prepared for bed, Leo curled up next to John and whispered, Dad, I can't wait for more adventures with them. John smiled, brushing his son's hair gently. Me too, buddy, me too. And as he watched the children drift off to sleep, he realized something important. Humanity's true strength was not in technology or machines, but in its people, their minds, their hearts, and the connections they built. And tonight, he had witnessed that strength firsthand. The unexpected adventure had reminded him that even small acts of teamwork, curiosity, and care could make a difference, not just in a colony, but in life itself. And with that thought, John felt a sense of hope and belonging he hadn't felt in years, a promise of more adventures, more learning, and more laughter to come. The colony's morning light spilled softly into John's apartment, casting a gentle glow over the living room. After the events of the previous day, the puzzles, the drones, and the adventure stabilizing the colony's energy grid, John felt a quiet sense of anticipation. Today was different. Today wasn't just about games or problem-solving. It felt like the start of something bigger. Leo sat at the small kitchen table, tinkering with a miniature spaceship he had built overnight. Zara, Kale, and Lyra were equally busy, exploring small experiments they had planned after last night's adventure. The air was full of energy and laughter, a lively soundtrack to the small but extraordinary family that had begun forming here. John sipped his morning tea, taking a deep breath. He had learned so much in just 2 days about Maya, about her children, and about himself. He realized that life could be full of surprises, and that sometimes, opening the door to the unexpected could lead to the most remarkable experiences. Maya entered the room, carrying a tablet and a small bag. "Good morning, everyone," she said warmly. "I hope you slept well. Today, I have a special idea." Leo's eyes sparkled. "Another adventure?" Maya nodded. "Yes. But this time, it's more about creativity and teamwork. I want you all to work together to design something that could help the colony or just be fun. Think of it as a way to combine everything you've learned." Zara clapped her hands. "That sounds amazing. Can we start right now?" Kale grinned. "Yes. Let's make something incredible." Lyra bounced on her feet. "Can we build a spaceship? Or a robot?" John laughed. "We can try anything. But let's make it simple enough to finish together." They gathered around the dining table, which had been cleared for this special project. Maya displayed a holographic blueprint, showing a small but intricate structure designed for creativity. A mini, energy-efficient habitat that could float on one of the colony's artificial lakes. "Your challenge," Maya explained, "is to design this habitat using the materials provided: lightweight straws, connectors, small solar panels, and tape. You'll need to think about stability, energy use, and aesthetics. And most importantly, you'll need to work together." Leo's eyes widened. "Wow, that's amazing." John smiled, watching the children's excitement. "All right, team," he said, crouching next to Leo. "Let's show them what we can do." The team divided tasks naturally. Zara and Kale worked on the structural design, carefully arranging the straws and connectors. Lyra focused on decoration, adding small touches to make the habitat colorful and imaginative. Leo helped measure and test stability, while John supervised, offered ideas, and helped adjust the structure when needed. At first, the habitat wobbled and collapsed a few times. Leo groaned in frustration. "It's not working." John placed a hand on his shoulder. "It's okay, buddy. Every failure teaches us something. Let's try again." Zara nodded. "If we use triangles for the base, it will be stronger." Kale adjusted a few connections. "Yes. And if we angle the supports slightly, it can hold more weight without tipping over." Lyra smiled proudly as she added small decorative panels to the sides. "It looks like a real floating house." Little by little, the habitat took shape. The structure became more stable. The solar panels were positioned to catch the maximum light, and the decorations added a sense of wonder and creativity. John couldn't help but feel proud not just of the finished project, but of the teamwork and collaboration that had made it possible. Finally, after hours of careful construction, the floating habitat stood complete on the small water tank Maya had set up. The children cheered, jumping up and down with excitement. Leo hugged John. "We did it, Dad. We really did it." John laughed, feeling a surge of warmth. "Yes, we did. And you were amazing." Maya approached, her eyes soft with pride. "I'm so impressed. You all worked together beautifully." This is more than just a project. It's a lesson in collaboration, creativity, and problem-solving. Zara looked at John, her expression thoughtful. You know, Dad, you helped us a lot. You didn't just guide Leo, you guided all of us. John smiled. Thank you. I think you all guided me too. I learned a lot from working with you. Kale grinned. Yeah, you're like our honorary engineer. Lyra hugged John around the waist. We like you, Dad. John felt a lump in his throat. He had never felt such a strong sense of belonging. The children had accepted him not just as Leo's father, but as a part of their small, extraordinary family. And Maya's gentle smile reminded him that he was welcome, that he could be more than just a visitor in their lives. After the project, they moved to the balcony for a small celebration. Maya had prepared a light meal, fruit, sandwiches, and warm drinks. The children sat together, talking excitedly about their floating habitat and the adventures they would imagine for it. Leo described how they could expand it with tiny rooms, drones, and energy shields. Zara and Kale added their own ideas, while Lyra sketched colorful designs on a small holographic pad. John watched, feeling a quiet awe. Humanity, he realized, was capable of incredible things, not just because of technology, but because of curiosity, creativity, and the willingness to work together. And these children were living proof of that. Maya approached John, her hand brushing lightly against his. You've done wonderfully, she said softly. Not just with the project, but with Leo and the children. You're patient, kind, and encouraging. That's everything I could hope for. John nodded, feeling a warmth in his chest. Thank you, Maya. I feel like I belong here. With you, Leo, and your children. She smiled, her eyes reflecting the morning light. You do. And I hope this is just the beginning. The children, sensing a calm moment, gathered around John and Maya. Leo snuggled close. Zara rested her head on his shoulder. Kale leaned against his side, and little Lyra held his hand. John felt a wave of love and connection unlike anything he had experienced before. Dad, Leo whispered, can we have more adventures like this every day? John chuckled softly. I think we can, buddy. I think we can, Zara added, and we can teach each other new things too. That's the best part. Kale nodded. Yes, and we can solve problems together, just like yesterday with the power grid. Lyra smiled shyly. And we can make more floating houses. John laughed, feeling a deep sense of joy. Yes, we'll make more floating houses, and spaceships, and robots, and anything else we can imagine. Maya leaned against him, her voice soft. You've shown them that adults can be friends, guides, and teammates. That's a rare gift. John looked down at Leo, who was already drawing new spaceship ideas in the holographic pad. He thought about how much had changed in just a few days, how a single dinner had turned into games, adventures, learning, and finally, a family. He realized that humanity's strength wasn't just in science, technology, or even exploration. It was in connection, in kindness, in creativity, and in the willingness to embrace the unexpected. And tonight, he felt that strength surrounding him like a warm light. As the morning turned to afternoon, the group decided to take a short walk around the colony's gardens. The children ran ahead, laughing and pointing out interesting plants and animals engineered for zero-gravity habitats. John walked alongside Maya, feeling a sense of peace. You know, she said quietly, life is full of surprises. Sometimes, you open a door and find more than you expect. A family, a team, or even a new adventure. John smiled. I've learned that this week. I was nervous at first, but now, I feel like this is where I belong. She reached for his hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. I'm glad you do. And I hope this is just the beginning of many adventures together. John looked at Leo, Zara, Kale, and Lyra, who were laughing and exploring ahead of them. He realized that this family so full of curiosity, energy, and creativity had changed his life in ways he never imagined. For the first time in years, he felt completely at peace. He wasn't just a single dad raising a child in a distant colony. He was part of something bigger, a network of human connection, ingenuity, and love. And as the sun set over the colony, casting long, golden reflections across the metallic buildings and glowing gardens, John knew one thing for certain: this was only the beginning. A new chapter had begun for him, for Leo, and for Maya's extraordinary children. Adventures, learning, and laughter awaited them every day, and together, they would face them all curious, brave, and united. For humanity was remarkable, not just in its technology or discoveries, but in its ability to connect, create, and care. And in this small corner of the colony, John had found the brightest proof of that truth. And with that, a single dad, a group of extraordinary children, and a kind, intelligent woman stepped into a future full of promise, wonder, and endless possibilities.